Calvin Castine here, off camera. We're in the halls of the Champlain American Legion, post 767, and on our right we have Al Strack, and on our left we have Sue Dupree Merchant. And we're here to talk about a reunion, and this is a reunion of a different sort. Most of us are familiar with high school and college reunions, but this is a different type of reunion. It's a reunion of former employees of one of the local businesses in the area that is no longer with us. And that's for employees of the Sheridan Company and Harris Graphics, Harris Intertype. We could probably list, Al, half a dozen or more names that this enterprise went under, but I think if we mention those names, people will know what we're talking about. First of all, we'll mention that the date that's picked for this reunion is August 9th this summer, yes. 2003. But somebody give me an idea of where this idea came from?
Well, Suzanne LaRush initially had brought the idea up, and she thought it would be nice if everybody could get together that used to work at the old Sheridan and Harris Graphics. We've lost touch with a few people, and we thought it would be nice just to gather and reminisce and have a good time.
Is there any thought of where it would be? Obviously, we're talking potentially a large amount of people, and probably the only place in the area that might hold an indoor-outdoor crowd that size might even be the Civic Center in Rouse's Point. And he thought, of course, here at the Legion, we're right next door to the Sheridan, so this would also be a good site.
We have thought about some different areas. We're not quite sure at this time. We have to see availability. One of the things that we are looking into is the rec center in Rouse's Point. We're also checking into the Lakeview Pavilion that's down on Kings Bay. I'm not quite sure if we've really been able to...
I think one of the purposes of our discussion this morning is to outline a method that we'd like to use to determine exactly what kind of place we need, how many to be expected, and so on.
That's right.
As you know, the Harris Corporation, formerly Sheridan Iron Works, had a history of 90 years here, and so many families and 3 or 4 generations of families worked there, along with so many other local people. The Harris Corporation was a active member of the entire community. But when the plant closed, the people went, of course, all different directions. So our effort right now is to come up with a method of getting some kind of idea of how many people might be interested in following through. Everyone we've talked to seems quite excited about it, but we have to have numbers. So Suzanne, Sue Merchant, and several others formed a committee to develop a method of doing this and to renew some of the friendships and fellowships that were developed during their work period. Sue, I think, has an outline of what she'd like to do to follow up on obtaining some numbers.
We're looking at folks living outside the northern New York area. We're trying to notify them by letters, phone calls. Of course, if you know of some people that might be a little harder to get in touch with, we would appreciate phone calls from you to let us know maybe their addresses or their phone numbers. The local residents are being notified through public mediums such as Hometown Cable, which we really do appreciate Calvin taking care of this today. And we also have a list of people with phone numbers that Calvin has so graciously started to view on the Channel 24. So if you could contact one of those people, and I'm sure that you'll be seeing this probably at the end of this interview.
We can mention, interrupt you here, Sue, and I may do that again before this is over. We'll mention the names because people aren't necessarily sitting there with a pen looking for phone numbers, but Suzanne LaRush would be probably listed under Norman LaRush.
Yes, it'd be Norman LaRush from
Sue
Champlain.
Merchant, you're listed under Steve and Sue, or just Steve?
Steve.
Just Steve. Terry Penfield, that'd be Raymond Penfield.
Right.
Then you had a couple names that
Of other
aren't on our
committees.
list. Debbie Carden, that'd be under Alan Carden.
Yes.
And who was the other one? Jeanette
Jeanette.
Tremblay. That'd be
Jeanette
under
Tremblay.
Ron Tremblay.
Right.
Ron and Jeanette Tremblay. So just remember those names, and you can look up the phone numbers. They're all
And of
listed
course,
in the
Al.
book. And Al, from what I've heard, wants to let you girls.
They are very capable and willing, and I'm happy to let them run with the ball. But if I can help in any way, or if anybody wants to call me, I'd be more than happy to take a call. If they can catch me. I'm a little bit on the move, so I may be a little hard to get to, except in the evenings. I'm home in the evenings.
And some of us do have answering machines, and we are more than happy to have you leave a message. Just let us know if you're interested. We're just doing this in different phases at this point, as Al had pointed out a little earlier. We're trying to get a gist of how many people want to attend, would be interested in gathering together, and this will give us a good idea, I think.
Okay, well, I'm sure one of the questions that people are going to have when they call is, what's it going to cost, and what's the festivities going to look like? Now, I've witnessed a couple of similar type of reunions with the Champlain reunion. Bob Ben worked very hard on that, and of course closely associated with Bob. And I also witnessed close on to the group that put on a reunion for St. Mary's, and most of those involved different phases. You could come for a meal, you could come just to socialize, and what it would cost you might differ based on what participation you wanted to take part in. Have you nailed down the type of...
Not really at this point. We've discussed it a little. Until we know more of how many people we're expecting, that will really determine on whether or not we'll have a meal or just finger foods, whether or not it will be held in a place where there's a bar facility, outdoor facilities. It's really going to determine on what kind of response we receive from everybody.
The thinking is to keep it simple and give people an opportunity to visit with each other. It will include their spouse at least.
And after Sue sent me the initial email, she sent me another one, a follow-up, saying spouses of deceased employees are also
Certainly.
Be welcome.
welcome.
Yes.
The Harris employees became a family, both in their work life and living in the small rural area like we live in. Their activity and interests all follow similar paths. So their families are still family.
So you don't want people to feel left out if their spouse is no longer with us and
Certainly not.
they're part of that Sheridan or Harris family. And I'm going to throw another curve at you here. There's probably a few people whose parents worked there. I can think of John Zerlo in particular, who very much associates himself with Sheridan and Harris. Would it be safe to say that if you are in the community and feel you're part of this family, to give it a call?
I would believe so.
We haven't thought
We
about
haven't
it very
really got-
much,
yes.
but certainly people like the Zerlo family were a part of us from word go. We would probably welcome anybody who wanted to come. But again, it depends on the numbers that
Yeah, obviously, if you have to
Right.
get to a point where you're cutting out people,
Right.
Right, yes, that's the thing.
Whatever we do will be done uniformly. We won't select any.
I would say if they were closely associated with the Harris group, Sheridan, I would think that we would more than welcome them to call at least.
Okay. Now you've given a initial cutoff date of May 17th, and that's very close to this time period as we're taping this. Obviously, you're not looking for your final count on May 17th. You're looking to get a ballpark figure. Then obviously that's going to change as we get
Exactly.
closer to August 9th, and somewhere in the future you're going to have a final cutoff date.
Right. This is just initially to give us an idea how many people are actually interested, so we can look for a place that would accommodate the amount of people we're looking at.
And are you also looking for people who might be willing to step up and say, hey, I'll help, or do you have enough
Oh,
help?
certainly. Well, I mean, I think as we get closer to the time, we'll probably be looking for more help. At this point, it's still in the planning stages, so we certainly will take down anyone's name who is interested in helping.
Never turn down a volunteer.
Never.
Well, never is a very, I don't like ultimates. Never say never, my father once told me, and I've learned the wisdom of that. So.
Right, right.
There are some volunteers that sometimes you want to turn down. But none of them ever were associated with Sheridan or Harris.
This
Well,
is
I'm
true.
not sure they were.
This is true.
Okay, anything else that you feel is important at this point?
I think we've pretty much covered the...
Yeah, just to stress again the need to call, and call soon, because obviously the time to organize is very short. And in order to do the type of jobs that these folks would like to do, they have to have some answers soon.
Because I'm sure there's people watching here who might be the only contact, even if you're not personally someone who was involved at Sheridan or Harris, but you might know where Bobby Joe was gone now
Exactly.
and how to contact them.
Yes.
Yes.
People have scattered a great deal, and we'd like to get as many and all of them if we can.
Yeah, so if you're aware of somebody that you feel the committee wouldn't be able to reach,
Right.
by all means contact, even if you're not personally.
Please, yes. Even if it's a relative that you know worked for Sheridan or Harris Graphics and moved out of the area for a reason, whether they relocated, or just worked at one time for the Harris or Sheridan group, we would really appreciate a phone call, just letting us know where they are and their phone number or address.
Now, are there any old records anywhere? Does anybody have any old records of employee lists?
Oh, yes. Yeah. We have.
You have access to those?
Yes. How accurate and how up to date they were as far as when the closing took place, we're not sure. But it'll give us a good opportunity to contact most of them.
So that's when in 86 and 87 when the plant closed,
Right.
but you don't necessarily have a list from
There's been no upkeep of those lists, no.
from the 70s,
Those lists are
60s, or
15
whatever.
years old.
Yeah, and you don't have one prior to that. I mean, the people, like I left there in 75. So I wouldn't have been on to 86, 87. My wife Judy was there, but she went. So there are people who
We
were there.
don't have a list of full employment from way back. No.
Yeah, somebody who retired in 73 wouldn't necessarily be on that list that you're looking
That's
at.
right.
Right,
So-
right. We would also welcome
Yeah.
those
so
people to come
right.
forward or give us a
relatives
phone
of
call
theirs
if you
and
know of them. Yes.
help locate these people. Okay. Again, the date. Now, I would assume the date is pretty much concrete. You're not going to be changing the date of August 9th. That a Saturday?
That's on
That's a
Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday. The extent of how long this event will last and what will take place is being worked out even as we're talking here. It's being worked out, and it's going to depend to a great extent on the number of people who do respond. Obviously, an early response would be beneficial to everyone. Again, the numbers to call, you can look them up in the phone book. They would be Norman LaRush, you ask for Suzanne. Under Steve Merchant, you ask for Sue. Under Raymond Penfield, you ask for Terry. Under Ron Tremblay, you'd ask for Jeanette. And under Alan Carden, you would ask for Debbie. If you want a job done right, I guess you get a woman to do it. Now, I feel awfully guilty, Alan.
Why?
Well, it wasn't that long ago that a group of us gathered together, and except for my wife Judy, who was running the camera, it was all men. Now we're having this reunion, and it's all the women that...
When it comes to just sit around talking, the men do a great job. When it comes to work, we'll depend on the ladies.
We'll accept that and thank you.
Okay, anything else?
I I think we're
Nothing that I have other than I hope to see all of you in August.
yes,
All right, thank you.
looking for a great response.